Right, okay, let me get comfy. I'm in my fidgety chair.
Mate, I'm still in jeans from my train journey.
Right. Okay, so hi, welcome back to Featuring Regular People. This is episode 10, our first milestone, I guess. Today we're going to be talking to Chynna, who is a intensive care nurse working on the front line during probably one of the worst times to be working as a nurse in recent history. We'll be chatting to her today a little bit about sort of her career, COVID, and all the things that come with it. Chynna, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Just coming off the back of a week off, so had a bit of time away.
Yeah, I've been chilling. I've done nothing. I've been so lazy.
Yeah, to be fair, you've probably earned it more than most, I would have thought.
I'd like
There's
to think
one
so.
career where you want to really rest on your downtime, it's, working in the NHS.
Definitely.
I thought I was knackered at the end of the week, but then I realised that I've been working about 5 hours a day.
Hey, that's the thing. All throughout
and that's with
COVID,
lunch included.
Still taxing though.
You find yourself whinging about your life, and then you see, when they post all the pictures of where they've had the PPE on, bruises on their face, you're like, shit, I should probably shut the fuck up, shouldn't I?
No, it's all valid. It's all valid.
But yeah, thank you very much for coming back on as well. For coming on. It's really great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's quite nice. We haven't had a girl yet, so you are.
Oh.
Yeah, you're the first girl we've had on, which is nice.
Wow. Very special.
So, just to kick it off then, with obviously nursing and working in healthcare in general, so you have to really, really want to do that job because obviously most of it is going to be pretty horrendous stuff you're having to deal with. Did you always want to do that growing up, or was it a later decision for you?
I think I did, to be fair. Going way back, I always remember in year 4 we had to do a what do you want to be when you grow up project, and I did mine on wanting to be a wag. I don't know where that came from. I don't know who let me do it. But once I got over that, I think I did want to be a nurse, to be fair. I definitely wanted to work in healthcare. That was a definite. But I think before I went to college, I wanted to be a midwife. But I had a week's work experience at our local hospital in their maternity unit, and it kind of swayed it for me. So I then made sure everything I did was for nursing. So I feel lucky, to be fair, because a lot of people struggle with knowing what they want to do, and I just knew from the get-go, really. So
well, that's it. Yeah, so I met you at uni through Rosie. Obviously, people who don't know, my girlfriend lived with Chynna at uni, and then I used to be the bane of her life, fucking smoking weed downstairs while her nurse clothes were drying after the wash. Can't go into work like that. But
definitely not.
Yeah, so you're one of the few people who I've met in my adult life who knew what they wanted to do, and I've always been super envious of that. Because obviously what you do is hard, but to know that you definitely want to do it and you don't therefore feel like you're wasting your time must be quite a fortunate thing.
Definitely, yeah. I feel lucky to have had that just solid from the get-go.
And
I mean, it's a big transition. I'm not quite sure there's any university courses for being a wag.
Yeah.
So it was probably a lot more wise to make that transition.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You've still got time to be a wag.
I know, that's what I mean.
You never know who you're going to meet,
Yeah.
Keep it on the back burner, yeah. So, what would you say drew you to that kind of career? Because it's very full on. You, as I've said, you have to really care about what you're doing. What drew you to that?
I can't, it's hard. I was trying to think actually what the pinpoint was for me to be inspired to be a nurse. I used to love watching the obvious 24 hours in A&E, One Born Every Minute. I used to watch those religiously. And I was thinking back as well, my nan on my dad's side, she since I was born, she had both her legs amputated. So I used to see my family caring for her, and I guess maybe that's just a natural, because I was so used to it. Maybe that's kind of partly what inspired me. I mean, I think I'm the first nurse on my dad's side, so I didn't really have any role models as such.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Leading by example.
Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, it's an amazing thing to decide you want to do. What you didn't expect is as soon as you come out of uni, a worldwide pandemic kicks off.
Definitely
what
not.
was kind of your thought process as that was happening and throughout it? Have you been fuck, what have I got myself into? Or have you just kind of been cracking on with it like you have to?
A little bit. I mean, because I was I think 5 months qualified as soon as COVID hit, sorry. So straight away I was a bit like, whoa. I was only just finding my feet on intensive care, and it takes probably a good year to settle in there anyway, really.
Yeah.
So straight away I was kind of a bit scared, to say the least. And then I guess you find yourself questioning at times, like, is this what I actually want to do? But then I kind of had to think, like, no, I was enjoying my job before COVID, and during my training I loved it. So I think it's just COVID that we don't like. Like, COVID is just, it's so intense, and obviously when this hopefully all is calmed down a lot more and it's not really it'll just go back to how it was. But yeah, it's given me a big confidence boost, because we had obviously, as I say, I was 5 months qualified, and we had redeployed staff come and help us from like theatres, because they obviously weren't doing so many surgeries and stuff. And they were so helpful, like they really helped us. But I was finding myself like 5-6 months qualified teaching really experienced nurses in other areas how to work in ICU, like how to be an ICU nurse. And I felt embarrassed. I was a bit like, oh my gosh, you have like 20 years experience on me and I'm telling you what to do. Like, it was a bit of a...
Yeah, that's fucking mad.
Yeah.
That's sick.
But I mean, it's a huge kind of learning curve as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
Talk about chucking somebody in at the deep end.
Absolutely.
It's just, that's 0 to 100 in a few months.
Straight on difficult mode. But yeah, I guess it kind of, you must feel now that, like, once, obviously, fingers crossed, COVID dies down and life semi goes back to normal, you must feel like you can handle anything, because there's no such shift busier than a mid-pandemic shift, surely.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying the job was easy before COVID, because obviously it's a hard job anyway, but COVID just kind of amplified that massively. And I do think as long as there's no more pandemics, I'm done with those now. I don't want any more. But I do think I can handle a lot more at work, which is kind of good in a way. It's made me a better nurse at the end of it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, to have to go...
I mean, I think with the, when it goes back to normal, I think your job title kind of says how tough it is day to day anyway. It's literally intensive care.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, the most extreme things that you need to be able to deal with.
Yeah, we have literally the poorest people in the hospital at any given time. So it is intense anyway. Quite literally.
But in terms of, like, COVID and stuff, so when you're studying to be a nurse at uni, like, do they talk about pandemics that have happened in the past? Is this something that you were in any way ever expecting, or that, like, the healthcare industry prepares for, or did it just completely blindside everyone?
I think it just blindsided us all. Like, I was a bit naive, and in my head, I never considered a pandemic anyway, because you just don't think about them. But when it first came about, I was a bit like, oh, we'll sort this. Like, I'm sure it'll just be a bit... Before it even hit the UK, I was like, oh, the media are scaring us. Like, it won't be as big as they're saying. Blah, blah. God, that showed me, didn't it? Yeah, it's kind of... I don't remember having a unit or anything, or like talking about it at uni. Obviously, you learn it at school, don't you? Like the plague and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember them ever teaching us anything on that. Which, I mean, why would they? I thought we were too advanced to get a pandemic or anything like that. I thought we were just too good. But clearly not.
As a species, we've leveled up and we're better than that now.
Yeah, I just thought we had all like the medicines and the prevention and stuff, but clearly not. So
I mean, like, because it's funny, like, now we're like a year into it and hopefully sort of seeing the back of it, like, people's mindsets from this point a year ago to now has just been so funny. Because I remember, like, so have you heard about that thing that's happened in, like, China? It's like that new disease or whatever, and it's like, I was straight away thinking, I was like, yeah, I also remember Ebola, when everyone said we were going to die of Ebola, and I was like, look, nothing happened, we're all fine. And then 2 weeks later, it was like, all right, yeah, everyone's working from home, nobody's allowed to touch anyone, you can't see any of your family. It's like, fuck, like,
I know.
It's caught everyone off guard.
Definitely. And I can't believe how relaxed I felt. I think I even said to you guys at one point, like, this is before it even hit the UK, and there was only a couple of cases worldwide, and I was a bit like, guys, don't worry, I'm sure it will be fine. Like, I really don't think we're going to get it that bad.
To work, it's chill, it's fucking fine, like, don't even worry.
I honestly think I jinxed it for everyone. But no, everyone was in the same boat, I think. Everyone at work was kind of thinking, we'll prepare for it, but I don't think it will be as bad as, like, in China or anything. And then slowly we just started to see it like just happening before our eyes, really. And I was a bit like,
yeah, I remember seeing him on the, like, Boris Johnson was like, or someone said like, oh, we're expecting up to like 20,000 deaths from this. And everyone,
yeah,
fucking hell, that's well bad. And now it's like over 100,000.
oh, it's been
I mean, I think the toll was at what, 126 over the course, like since like 2 days ago, maybe.
It's definitely a few. It's got a few.
That's something that I never did as well. Like up until this day, still, I don't look at the death toll or like statistics or anything like that, because I just, especially during the first lockdown, I was just constantly, everyone was worried about it, and in the end, I had to just try and switch off when I got home. I was like, I can't look at how many people have died, how many, I don't know, are infected, anything like that. I just need to switch off. Yeah, I've never really paid, it sounds bad, I've not paid attention to the death toll as such, but I think that's better for me.
With every job, I think quite a lot of people have an element of like bringing their job home with them, and I think what you do must be so difficult to like come out of work, and then especially when you're working on the front line in a pandemic, and then be like, I'm just going to chill out and like watch a film. Like, it must be really, really hard. Like, do you find it difficult to switch off after work?
I do, yeah. And I was a bit like that beforehand. A lot of people have kind of built up the resilience that are experienced nurses, and they'd be like, oh, you know, just do, I don't know, go for a coffee with your friends, or like do nice things, see your family, which is what I'd started to do if I'd had a bad day at work before COVID. But pandemic lockdown, you can't do that. So all of the, the things you would do to unwind and relax and make yourself feel better, you can't do. Like, I'd go and sit around my sister's house with my niece and nephew and like have a cup of tea and like lunch with them and stuff, or go and see my friends, like sit around their houses, but you couldn't do that. And in the first lockdown, I was living on my own because my flatmate had gone to her parents' house, partly because, you know, they had said like, oh, we want you back with us for the lockdown, blah, blah, blah. And because I was a nurse as well, because a lot of people, not my flatmate, but a lot of people, as soon as they find out you're a nurse, are a bit like, oh, don't come near me. Like, I wear PPE, guys, I'm not like I'm not diseased. But yeah, I forgot what I was saying actually.
That's all right. To be fair, you kind of answered it well. It was basically just about switching off after work. But yeah, you make a good point about all the things that someone would normally do to make themselves feel comfortable in a crisis, which is like do something to take your mind off it, spend time with your friends and family. Like, you now have to live in this crisis, but also, especially someone like yourself, like you only live with your one flatmate, so you literally are isolated away from everyone else in your life.
Yeah.
Must have just made it fucking 10 times harder to deal with. Like, obviously,
definitely
quite lucky I live with my girlfriend, so we've kind of always had each other throughout the whole thing. And like, but yeah, I do really feel for the people, because there must be people who like work in healthcare and live on their own, so like they've got to go home to just themselves, and then
and another thing as well, like I think some people that have families and stuff were actually living away temporarily, so they didn't bring anything home just in case at the beginning. And it's just hard, isn't it? Like, being on your own isn't really nice ever, but especially when there's not really a world outside anyway, and if you're working in that environment, you see some sad and sometimes like horrible things, and you've got no one really to talk to you about it when you get back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of hotels at the start, wasn't there? And I mean, I think throughout the whole thing that have offered, you know, rooms to NHS staff and frontline workers, purely because people are just, you know, scared to take something back. You know, obviously there's been pandemics before, but the last one of this scale was over 100 years ago. So realistically, nobody knows what to kind of do in that situation on like a personal basis. So yeah, it must be, I mean, the isolation of it all already perpetuated by the pandemic. It must just be intense.
Yeah, it really was.
Well, I think, Chynna, you were saying, like, we as a society, we kind of all thought, because we're so advanced now, that we're better than this. Like, we didn't expect something like this to happen. And I think it's been really fucking humbling, just because there's like this little invisible virus that you can't see that is just fucking everything up, basically.
Yeah. And that's actually a good point. That's a good thing, because I think so many people don't see it, so they don't either believe it or they don't take it seriously, like the lockdown and stuff. And I found that only if people have known someone that's been either affected or in hospital by COVID, that they then take it seriously. Like, a lot of people just think, oh, it's like the flu. I mean, if it was like the flu, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true with a lot of things, though. Like, you don't care about it until it's affecting you. It's the same way, like, so there are people who get offended by certain jokes, but they'll joke about other things. It's like, it's only when you joke about something that directly has affected them or that they care about, where they're like, oh no, you can't say that. And like, COVID has been a real sort of, well, put some truth in that, because nobody gives a shit until it's like, oh, but like my nan's got it now, and now I really care. Like,
and then they see the effects of it and they think, actually, this is a lot worse than I thought it was.
Well,
and I should be taking it more seriously.
A really frustrating thing for you, because nobody took the first lockdown. I think for the first couple of months, everyone was kind of shitting themselves. And then it was after restrictions got lifted the first time, but then they got, I don't know, they put the second lockdown into effect, and at that point nobody was taking it seriously, because it looked like the government didn't know what they were doing. And you live down in Bournemouth, the same place I live. The pictures of the beach in summer were fucking ridiculous.
It
like,
was awful.
For you and your colleagues, like, looking at that stuff, like, what were your thoughts on it?
It was frustrating, really, because I mean, in the first wave, we spent every single shift in the long plastic gowns, the tight masks, visors, hats, long gloves. And when it started to get warmer, we were honestly we were having to rotate on breaks as quick as we could, because it was just so hot and we couldn't stay in there for very long. And to see it starting to get a bit better, but then everyone just like flocking to the beach. Like, I think people from Manchester, like up north, they were all coming down for the day. And we were just sat there like, well, we're going to see the effects of this, so like, cheers for that. Like, it's just irresponsible, really. But you know, and then we had a bit of a break with summer. Like, it seemed to really calm down, but then as we were getting into like autumn, we could see that we were going to have a second wave, and it was just like, the dread was awful. And I think a lot of people flagged at that point, because in the first lockdown, the first wave, we were all on adrenaline. It was like, right, we've got this, we're a team, we're going to fight this virus, blah blah blah. And we had like everyone clapping on a Thursday. It was like, oh great, this is amazing. Not amazing, but you know, like this pandemic is amazing. But no, it felt like
my favourite one so far.
It just felt like everyone was behind us, and that, you know, we could do this, we could get through it, and we were going to save as many people as we could. And then the second wave, we'd obviously shut our COVID ICU. We were just back to one ICU again, one normal one. And then I personally, that's when I hit a wall, and I was just like, can't do that again. I just can't. And then I think I had a breakdown over the most like trivial thing at the end of one of my night shifts. I think I gave a drug half an hour late or something, which is fine. And I was just in tears. I was like, oh my God. Blah, blah, blah. And then I think, you know, everyone started to sort of crack at different points. But for me, that was, I think, because I knew the second wave was coming, I could see our second COVID starting to open and get full, like each day I'd go in and there'd be more people in there. And it obviously turned out the second wave was the worst one anyway, or has been the worst one. And I think we tripled our admissions in the second wave. So the first one, I don't know, don't quote me numbers, but like 30 odd or something, COVID over a certain period. And then from November to February, we had 119 or something. So that is almost triple of the ones that we had before. And we could really feel it, like the effects of it. It was just so intense.
I mean, it's scary, isn't it? Because there seems to, I mean, thinking back to the last pandemic of this scale, the second wave was, again, the more deadly out of the two. And it seems bizarre to me that there wasn't as much preparation for the second one by people that are obviously in the positions to be able to do that. When actually, you know, if you're learning from history, the second one has always been more deadly. So it is scary. And obviously by that time, you know, you guys have been doing this for months and months and months, and seeing the kind of scary shit that you have done. And then having to kind of go back into it. I mean, what was the kind of morale like in the, you know, the ICUs and the hospitals in general?
What, in the second wave? Or...
Yeah.
So I mean, COVID as a whole has brought us all a lot closer as a team. My team is actually amazing, and we were all quite good friends anyway before COVID hit. But I think having this, because we used to say, like, when we go into work, we're all together and we're all going through the same thing. Like, we're all experiencing this horrible virus, seeing these like poor people really poorly. And then you go home and like a lot of people have families and stuff, and they talk to them, but they don't get it. They just go, oh, that sounds horrible, but they will never understand what it's like to go through that or to see those things. So morale was like, we tried to keep it as high as we could, but I think the second time around, a lot of people were starting to flag quite quickly, myself included, as I said. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where we were lucky enough that our management are really good at, like, with our well-being and stuff, and they would pick it up and they'd give you a bit of a break. So they'd take you out of the COVID ICU and put you on the normal one, which is kind of the one that we're used to. It's a bit more like home, I guess, during the pandemic. And yeah, so they're really good with that. And they just notice when people are struggling and they give them a bit of a break. And then when they're ready, put them back in. So we're kind of all on rotation, really, I guess. But, yeah, no, morale was kind of maintained throughout. Even on the worst shift, you'd still be like, right, come on, someone would pick you up. I mean, I've cried so many times on shift, like, it's ridiculous. But you know, one of my friends would just be next to you, they'd be like, come on, you've got this. They'd like give me a pep talk, they'd help me out, and then it's just kind of, you get on with it. But yeah.
It's nice that you've got, obviously, all of you working there together have obviously kind of still got each other, and it's nice that if one of you's kind of starting to lose your shit with it a bit, which is totally understandable, you can kind of pick each other up. But
yeah,
something you mentioned just then that I did kind of want to get your feelings on, the Thursday night clap for carers.
Yeah.
Obviously, initially, yeah, it was like an amazing thing because it is important that you are recognised for the hard work you do. But how does the government starting a Thursday night clap for carers like feel for them to then only raise your wages by 1% for a year?
Well, the thing is, I think it was a member of the public that started it, but I think the government then kind of like hopped on, and like, well, loads of celebrities hopped on, and then it was kind of a bit like Boris was like, wait, on Thursday.
They just hijacked it.
Yeah.
If you clap loud enough, I won't have to pay you.
I mean, you know, the claps were lovely, and like the first time I ever heard it, I was actually crying. I was outside the hospital, and we'd all like kind of gather, as socially distant as we could, and we'd gather and we'd just like listen to there'd be like trucks driving up and down the road with like horns going. Everyone would come out. They'd have like, some people had like banners, I think. Yeah, it was really nice. It was like quite uplifting, and that at that point we needed that. It was a bit like, you know, everyone's really grateful for what we're doing. But then, you know, the claps died down, and then COVID picked back up again.
Yeah.
And the claps, to be honest, it's not like we need them, but for me, it's more like the people that were clapping probably voted for the government we've got in, and will continue to vote for the same government without realising that, you know, these are the people that aren't treating us right, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, it's like there's lots of, and we don't really have to go into this too much, there's lots of like, the NHS is strained because there's not enough beds and there's not enough, you know, places for these people to go. They don't mention that they've been selling off like hospitals and surgeries and beds.
Yeah, that's a big worry, isn't it? Privatisation.
However many years, like, so yeah, I can only imagine when you're on the inside of it, it is more frustrating. But like, what are your thoughts on how? Obviously, if you don't want to answer this in too much detail, you don't have to. But like, in terms of how our government handled the pandemic and how they handled the spread in this country, like, what are your thoughts and feelings on that? Do you think they did enough?
Well, obviously these are all my opinions.
Yeah.
I think they didn't do enough for the first one at all. I think because Italy were just ahead of us by maybe a week or two, and we could see what was happening with them. But I remember, because my flatmate works at a bar, and I think it was the week or a few days before the lockdown, and he was a bit like umming and ahhing whether or not to close the bars and stuff. And I think as well, when he would announce a lockdown, I mean, not for the first one, but I might have done it actually for the first one. It was like a Wednesday, and then he'd be like, lockdown starts Monday. So everyone would then go mad and think, oh, we've got till Monday. Like, just do it there and then. If you announce it, it should be from the get-go. Like, people are going to take that because it is within the rules. If it starts Monday, they don't need to do it until Monday. And I think as well, like places like New Zealand, I know it's not exactly the same, but they have been so strict from day one. And even I think a couple of weeks ago, they had one more case and they completely went into lockdown straight away.
Yeah.
And I think had the government been strict and said as well, like, this is the lockdown, you need to stay inside, because it was very much like, I don't even think he ever said the words, this is a lockdown. He just said, you know, we're going to stay at home more, only go out if you need to, blah, blah, blah. it should have been a bit kind of scary, I think, and been like, you need to stay at home, you have to stay at home, only go out for shopping.
Well, I saw the Prime Minister of Barbados. It was a woman, and she was literally like, you need to stay in your houses for 2 weeks. You're all told anyway, all citizens are told that you need to have a 2-week supply of food in case there's a hurricane or anything. Anyway. So
I didn't know that.
I'll link you the video after this. But it was a scary like news broadcast, which is kind of what this country needed. And I think the mentality in this country is quite an unserious one anyway. Like the general populace, like we don't really give a shit about things.
Yeah.
So like,
and we don't like being told what to do, which is another. Everyone's very entitled, which I get, but yeah, I feel like, I mean, I don't, not to scare people, because obviously there'll be like elderly people that'll be like, oh my god, but it just needs to be more firm, I think, like more to the point, like this is gonna happen, people are going to die and are currently dying, you need to take it seriously.
And obviously
I think as well, it's just having some sort of like consistency, some clarity, and you know, there were mixed messages from the start. I mean, without obviously going too political about it, because that's, you know, aside from the point of why you're on here, but there was the messages at the start which were like, oh, I've been at a hospital and there were COVID patients there and I was shaking their hands. And then, you know, the Prime Minister ended up being put into an ICU himself. And I just thought, well, why, one half of my brain goes, right, well, why should any of us listen to him anyway? The more rational part of my brain, because I'm not a dick, says, right, well, I will actually stay at home, not because that's what the government is saying, but that's because, you know, I know that it can have a hugely negative impact on people in general. Definitely. But then throughout the whole thing, you know, there was zero consistency, and I think it just kind of portrays the message to people that, actually, like, we're doing this because we have to, not because we think it's necessary ourselves. Which is the scary thing, isn't it? And I think, well, I mean, I don't know if you think that if there was more consistency in that messaging, do you think people would have lasted a lot longer trying to uphold that responsibility themselves?
Yeah, I do. And I think a lot of people lost respect for the government, I think, because of the backwards and forwards sort of toing and froing, and a bit like, we might put you into a lockdown, we might not. And even with Christmas time, when he said, I will guarantee you've got a week or 5 days, whatever, go see your family, blah, blah, blah. And personally, because obviously I live in Bournemouth, my family are in Essex and Suffolk, and I had the time off after I was working Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and I had a few days I was going to go see my family, haven't seen them in ages. And I cried so much the day that he just took it away. I think it's the fact that he'd made all these promises, and it was like, you know, I promise I can't touch Christmas, can't take it away. And then he did. I think, and the stuff he's done before that has just been, I don't know. I think everybody lost a bit of faith in them and sort of the way they were handling it because of that. I think if you have someone who's confident and shows confidence and is sticking kind of, I don't know, to like a set rules, then
it's morals, isn't it? Like, sticking to your word is a big thing. I think
the scary part is, though, that, I mean, in the latest poll, that actually the majority of people in the UK think that they've dealt with it well.
Yeah.
Which is fucking terrifying. I read it today.
It's good for people that vote on polls, and if you're voting on polls, like, you get a bit of a grip. Do you know?
I mean, I vote on polls. I get the email. I know. I'm a massive dickhead, but I just think, actually, do you know what? Some part of what I say has got to mean something to somebody.
Fair enough.
Which clearly it doesn't, but you know.
I think it was that lack of sticking to their word at Christmas, and then also this one obviously cracked everyone up. It was like, oh, eat out to help out, and then it's like when they put us in that second lockdown, it was like, that's because you were all fucking eating out. And
I know.
What do you think was going to happen? It's like, oh,
I know. I was going to say that actually. The way they plugged eat out to help out, and then it was a bit like, you're all going out too much.
Yeah.
It's mate, you've just given us half price food. What do you think we're going to do? Like, we're British?
Mate, you can't do 3 plates for a tenner at Spoons and then expect people to flock. Do you know what I mean? 30 chicken wings for a tenner. That's not to be missed. Especially if there's fucking COVID on. But yeah, no, it's been a weird time, and the messages haven't always been that consistent. But now it's kind of, I say we're towards the back end of it. Well, there's a roadmap out of lockdown.
Yeah.
Touch wood.
Obviously,
to be fair.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say that's probably the best thing they've done is give a set, like, staggered roadmap or a guide I think we should have had something similar coming out of the first lockdown, to be honest. But
well, that's what I mean, because it was like, you never know, because it was like lockdown, and it's like, okay, no lockdown, and then it's like, all right, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, which was just the most ridiculous system. Like, it all felt very Hunger Games. Like, oh yeah, what tier are you in? Like, oh, but now we've kind of got this, like, well, it's literally a roadmap. It's like, so we're going to be able to do this then, and like, it gives, like, even in normal life, something to look forward to is really important. Like, if you know you're going on holiday next month, you're kind of going to fly through the next few weeks at work and stuff, like.
Yeah.
So if people know that pubs are opening soon and gyms are opening soon and they're close to getting what they want, like, they're much more likely to stay sort of chill, not break the rules, and kind of just wait.
But then, I mean, there was also they said the exact words last year. This is the roadmap out of lockdown, and that's why we're introducing Eat Out to help out to reboost that economy. So the only difference is now, and the one kind of positive thing that I will say about this government, and I know a lot of people listening to this will be, hindsight's a great thing.
Yeah.
But the only positive thing that I will say about this government is the vaccine rollout has actually been really good.
Yeah,
it's been really efficient. I mean, I've had my first vaccine done about 3 weeks ago, and I think they've managed that really well.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I mean, what the fuck can we give them credit for? And that's the only reason why the roadmap now, to anybody that, kind of sits on the fence about it actually makes any sense, is because the vaccine rollout's going well, and once the wrong people and the people that need the vaccine the most are able to get it, then there's a little bit more protection, isn't there? Whereas last year when it happened, it was just a fucking, let's guess.
I can't believe we were ever let out of lockdown, thinking about it. Like, it seemed a good idea at the time, I guess, but it was just going to happen again.
Literally, like, Boris, how's it looking? It's like, looking all right, to be fair. Send them out. We'll see how they do. And then it's like, there's 500,000 people on a beach. It's like, oh shit, put them back inside.
Yeah, we fucked up.
So annoying.
But yeah, things are starting to look a bit more positive now. But moving away from government-based questioning, I know Luke's got a couple of things he wants to ask that are a bit more job-focused for you. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a few things that I want to talk about, and one, I'll go for the most morbid one first, because I think it's really important. But end of life care in your day-to-day role anyway, it seems like it's a huge part of what you do. But the end of life care, and I know you kind of briefly touched on this earlier in terms of the support systems, but it's obviously been perpetuated and amplified since the start of the pandemic. I mean, how has the support systems been in place? Has there been anything additional? And if there has, is that standard, like a whole across the board, or do you think it's kind of team per team? Like, how have you found it? Has it been better or worse?
So my team, as I say, they are just incredible anyway, and they've been supportive before COVID, because obviously intensive care, you see some things, you deal with some things, so you kind of need that anyway. But they've definitely, like, with the pandemic, just completely done an amazing job. So they've set up weekly debrief sessions, and this is only for my intensive care team, so I guess I can't talk for the whole of the hospital or like every single trust, because it will be different, as you say, depending on like the management and the teams and stuff.
Yeah.
But my team, they've done weekly debrief sessions, and they've got a psychologist involved for us, because a lot of us are having, I found this since the second wave, like having trouble sleeping, nightmares, like anxiety, stress, like a lot is going on. So we've had like a psychologist come and do some sleep sessions with us, which is really good. Teaches us some like breathing techniques, and the debrief sessions are just nice anyway, because he doesn't always come to them, but it's just nice to get together with people you work with and just talk about stuff that happens, because sometimes you could have, I don't know, someone could pass away on a shift and it can be really, really sad, different circumstances, but you won't always have a chance to really go over that on your shift, because obviously there's patients to look after, there's lots to do. So if you kind of save how you feel or talk about it a little bit on the day and then go to the debrief, you can kind of just let it all out with people you're comfortable with and people that get it. So that's been really helpful to have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, that question actually didn't come from me personally. It was from a close friend of mine who is also a nurse.
Yeah.
So they, just asked if I could touch on that a little bit, because I think it is really important that, whilst a lot of people talk about nurses being heroes and, you know, frontline workers being heroes. Actually, it's not. It's like a lot of years of studying. It's a lot of years of dedication. It's a huge fucking amount of resilience that goes into your role, and it's nice to actually hear it from, so to speak, the horse's mouth, that there is that support system in place. And that's a horrible saying. I'm not. Anyway,
such a rude way to say it.
Start naying.
No. I mean, God. Yeah,
no, I get it. I'm joking.
No,
yeah, as an expression goes. But it is nice. It is nice to hear that there are the support systems in place. But yeah, it's one of those difficult things, isn't it? Because there's so much extra pressure on people's mental health outside of that.
Yeah.
But then with you guys, that's just amplified by like a million. But one of the other things I wanted to talk about, and I think this is a really important topic because of the interviews that the health secretary has been doing recently, is in terms of PPE. Now, we've been seeing some scary images of the nurses in the first wave wearing bin bags, and some completely makeshift stuff that obviously isn't suitable or isn't protective, and there's been millions and millions and millions of our taxpayers' money being wasted on stuff that isn't efficient. But then the government turned out the other day, the health secretary turned out the other day and said that, oh no, it was there, it was fine, it was some freak cases where there wasn't PPE. I mean, have you got any kind of idea of what that was like for you guys, or how did you find was it a lack of PPE, was it fine?
So personally, from my experience, I think we were very lucky. We were always well equipped. Like, there was never a shift I came on and I didn't have the mask that I needed, or like anything. I wasn't ever short of anything. So I don't know if that was trust wise. I mean, I assume for my trust, if we're well supplied, the rest of the departments will be. But yeah, we were never, thankfully, short of anything. So that was amazing. But yeah, I see the stories and I see that there were people struggling to get. They were reusing masks, I think, a lot of them, because they're obviously meant to be like one-time use. You put them on and then you put them in the bin, sanitize, and then obviously put another one on if you need it, if you're going into the room. But yeah, I can't imagine having to reuse a mask that's been on my face for already hours. No, that would be hard. So yeah, it would have been really awful for the people that didn't have it.
I mean, was there any kind of talk in terms of like other hospitals or anything like that, that you knew of the shortages, or do you think it actually was just kind of very slim cases?
I don't think it was huge, but then again, I don't know. It might have been different areas of the country that were affected, but for as far as I know, in my trust, because I work for UHD, like Bournemouth and Poole together, but I know that they were, as far as I know, well stocked and well supplied. But yeah, it could have just been other trusts, other hospitals, because they will have different suppliers.
No, it's good, thank you. Only a couple of small things. I mean, I was thinking about which way that I should order these questions. So there's got to be some positives, obviously, over the last year. Like, there's a lot of negatives that we've spoken about, and there's a lot of negatives in the news every single day. And one of the reasons why I hope that this podcast is good is because there's always a positive outcome or a message to it anyway.
Yeah.
But what has been the highlights in terms of, like, how do you think the pandemic itself has built more of a community, or your team, it's strengthened? Like, what are the kind of positive things that you think have been influenced by the fact that this pandemic has happened?
So yeah, definitely team number one. I think we were close anyway, but this is like, we've all had to become so much closer. We have to work more closely, and we've all it's broken a barrier down, I guess, because obviously managers are managers, but they're also like nice people at the end of it, and kind of our senior nurses and our sisters and charge nurses, who are like our level of managers, and our matron, they obviously do the management side and they're in charge a lot, but before that I never really got to speak to them sort of on a proper level as such. We'd kind of speak in passing and be like, oh, how's your day going? Whereas this time they'd be like next to me, I'd be crying, they'd be like comforting me, and you just kind of talk about different things because of COVID, I guess. So it kind of brought everyone closer on different levels, because I was a very junior staff nurse, and now kind of we're all just, I don't know. I mean, they are still managers at the end of it, but they're also like a close manager. If I've worded that really wrong, but they're they're just someone you can talk to.
Where, like, although they're your superior, like, you're both still people.
Yes, yeah. And they are lovely people anyway. So you can just go to, if you have any problem, work related or not, you could just go to them and be like, I'm sad, and they'd help you. So they're lovely. And obviously my confidence as well has just improved massively. I think it comes with experience anyway, but I always struggle with confidence a bit anyway, but as a nurse, definitely I believe in myself to be able to cope with stuff more. And I think that if something was thrown at me that is a bit challenging, I could actually do it now. Whereas before I'd be like, oh, can I have some help? Like, don't think I can do that. But I've learned to get on with it, I guess, and you just kind of have to. So that's been a huge one as well. And I think as well, last thing.
No, talk what you want, that's why we're here.
Got like verbal diarrhea. I think the pandemic has helped me to appreciate the small things a lot, which sounds really cliche and cheesy, but I just would appreciate now just going to my sister's house and sitting with her for a cup of tea. Like, that will be heaven. Just do stuff like that I took for granted every week. Will be amazing to do that again.
Yeah, that's I think that's true for everyone, isn't it? Like, the pandemic's given you a greater appreciation for things that you didn't really used to think about.
Oh, we dropped out.
Oh,
are we all good?
No, yeah, I think.
Hello? My Wi-Fi, I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We're lagging. Yeah?
I'm no, I'm taking the piss then. Can you see me? It's fine.
No, it's all right. Back in. But I was just saying, I think the pandemic's given everyone a greater appreciation for those things that you didn't really used to think about, like normal things that you would just completely take for granted. You're now very grateful that you can just even go and, I just want to go out for dinner. Like, do you know what I mean? Just go out and have a meal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I know.
But,
and just all of us to be together, like even sitting at your house, Carl, and like a cup of tea, all of us like as a group, it would just be so nice.
Definitely. Just socialising with more than 2 people, as long as they're outside your house or bubble or whatever the rules are. I'm not too sure.
So some of them have been bizarre, haven't they? Like the ones that got me the most and I found hilarious were the rules around couples. It was like, if you're long distance couples, you can meet outside, but you can't meet inside. If you do meet inside, because there's a support bubble, you can't do anything like, kiss people or anything like that. And I'm like, there's so many weird, like, kind of connotations of these rules. It was just fucking bizarre.
In the bedroom, we were taking no chances, mate. No way.
Rub it instead of butter, it's like hand sanitizer. Anyway, I shouldn't. I won't go any more on that subject. I don't know why you asked. Well, I don't know why we bothered starting this, Carl, because I can't talk. I just say stupid shit all the time.
Yeah, no, that's why we get other guests on to talk about their shit, so that we don't have to speak.
Well, maybe, next time, I'm just gonna have like a cardboard cutout, and I'll pre-record some stuff, and
just make the mouth move.
We'll send people questions, and then we'll just sit here in silence while they read the question and then provide an answer, and we'll just be like, good stuff.
Just be like a monologue. It'll be fine.
No, yeah.
There was one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and this might require a little bit of a stern message from you, actually, going back to the stern message topic earlier. But in terms of what, the public that haven't quite understood the severity of this, what do you think one thing, being on the ground at the front line of this, what's one thing that you would like to say to people that don't quite understand or have neglected the rules?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean,
I would say don't be dicks, but you seem
I would
much
love to say that. I would love to say that. But I just think, please just listen to us. Like, don't take what is being shown on the news, like what you're hearing. Don't just brush it off. Like, it's true, it's real. And get your vaccine as soon as you can, because it's the only chance we've got of like getting out of this. Just to kind of, it's hard to put into words like what I would want to say to people, because it's frustrating to see, like, you've got the I wouldn't say anti-COVID, but we're all anti-COVID. What is it, like,
anti-maskers or whatever?
Yeah, and like anti-lockdown
people who think it's a hoax, people who don't believe it.
Tinfoil hat twats.
But I think it's not so much that people don't believe that there's a disease called COVID-19. It's that people just don't trust the government. You're always going to have a certain part of the population that don't believe anything the government says. But the reason we kind of wanted you to answer that question, Chynna, is because if there's people who can't listen to the government, we get that.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of that group as well. At the start of COVID, I was kind of like, no, it's all bollocks. Rah, rah, rah. But if you can't listen to the government, then at least listen to someone who works on the front line.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Deals with that shit, because there's all these people who could be like, well, I'm not going to wear a mask. Like, why should I have to wear a mask? And it's like, okay, but say that to someone who's just finished a 14-hour shift and watched 3 people die. Like,
right? Yeah, definitely.
If it seems ridiculous to you, just do your bit. Do you know what I mean?
And that's the worst thing, I think, because I've seen people really ill. Like, I mean, most of if they're in intensive care, they're going to be ill. But really, really sick people that have got COVID without not that anyone means to, but they've done everything they can to not get it, and it's been one person that's been selfish and has given it to them, and then they've either passed away or been really poorly, nearly not made it. Like, you see that and you just think, it's just people that I think that have the mindset of, oh, I don't mind if I get COVID because I'm young, I'll survive. Like, it's not about you, it's about the people that you'll give it to in bloody Lidl or something. Like, it's not about you, it's about everyone.
Yeah. Fucking Lidl.
Fucking Lidl. I prefer Aldi anyway.
That middle aisle, you know.
Supermarket's a weird one, because it's like, you're not allowed to see your friends and family, but I've just watched this woman pick up 4 different apples only to decide she didn't want any of them.
Right.
And it's like, she's picked them all up, like touched them all, and I'm just like,
that's grim in the most normal times.
Mate, I think this pandemic's made people realise how unhygienic general life is.
I was going to say this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you go somewhere and they are sanitising the seats now in between going or whatever, why were we not doing that before? Like, and touching things. Ugh.
Or like takeaway even. So like, obviously we couldn't go until Eat Out to Help Out, which eventually became a problem anyway. We couldn't go and have meals places, but you could get a takeaway. I've worked in catering quite a lot. Do you know how many people have touched that takeaway before you're eating it?
Oh.
So like, even that is still pretty like you're never going to be able to fully avoid contact with other people because the world can't run as it does. But yeah, I don't know. It's been a weird thing to live through. It's like a big part.
So the message is, sorry, so to bounce back to that question, what's the message that you want to tell people?
I need to compose an actual message.
This is your queen speaking.
Yeah, no, I'm not very good at actually stringing sentences together. I don't know if you've noticed yet.
Right, as long as you're good at looking after people, you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's more, you know. So I would say, I don't know what I'd say.
Just do your bit.
Do your bit. Like, just main thing, listen to us, because we're not lying. Like, just appreciate that we are literally busting a gut and get your vaccine. Like, I can't tell you how frustrating it is when people just say to me, like, I've had family members say to me, oh, I'm not going to get it. And I was like, why? She's like, don't know yet. Just haven't decided I want to get it. And it's just get the vaccine. You're going to have it at some point.
Well, I think what they're going to do is you can't go on holiday if you haven't got it. And then everyone will be like, well, fucking hell, I'm obviously getting it then. Because that's one, most normal, like, day-to-day people I've spoke to throughout all this are like, they just want to go on fucking holiday. So if they tell you need a vaccine to go on holiday, everyone's going to do it.
Yeah, which is kind of sad. Like, you'd think that priorities would be elsewhere, but
yeah,
if that's what does it, let's do it.
I mean, if it's any consolation to anybody listening, I had my first vaccine done about 3 weeks ago. And just to let people know, Bill Gates hasn't tracked me round Audi since. So everybody's fine. Like, Bill Gates isn't going to track me on my weekly shop. And you're all fine too.
I'm waiting for my call up.
Pardon?
I'm still waiting for my call up, mate. I haven't had mine yet.
I think you'll be
but you're
fairly
healthy.
far down the list. Yeah, because you're young.
Tell that to my lungs, mate.
Yeah, that's self-inflicted, not like actual underlying health conditions.
No, it's all right. They'll get. Well, they've got to get everyone by June 21st because they've said we're allowed out. So I'll be going out.
Fingers crossed. Take that with a pinch of salt, may I add.
But yeah, Chynna, on top of like everything we've spoken about today, is there anything else you kind of want to say on the subject? Or like, okay, if there's any sort of young nurses or potential NHS workers who are kind of, I imagine, a bit apprehensive given what's just happened, like, is there anything you'd say to them about like just the fulfillment you get from the job or the positive side of it?
Yeah, I mean, the job is a privilege in itself. Like, being a nurse is such a unique thing, and it is so rewarding. I mean, I have spoken a lot about the sads and the negative stuff and stuff and stuff.
And stuff.
And stuff.
And
But
stuff.
I need to stop saying that. No, but seriously, it is such a rewarding job, and the good times 1,000,000% outweigh the bad. I mean, I could have the worst shift of my life, be crying, be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then the next day I'll have the sweetest, even like a sweet little old lady or an old man who would be like, thank you so much, darling. And I'll be like, I love my job, love it. I'm going to be doing it. It's just stuff like that. The really simple things. It's just so fulfilling. And a lot of people are thankful, and it's more seeing the difference you make in people's lives. That's the most amazing thing. So it's definitely still worthwhile getting into. It's a great career, and I would like, as much as this has been an awful time, I still love my job and I still love what I do.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I think it's one of those careers, isn't it? Like, the highs are really high and the lows are obviously really low.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true in any job. It's just amplified so much more when there's like other people's lives so intertwined with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's mad. And I remember obviously, because when I first met you at uni, like, what student nurses go through, and this has been spoken about a lot, like obviously in the news and stuff, like what student nurses go through is fucking mental, because you'll have like, so the days you're at uni, obviously you'll have really long days at uni, and then like I remember seeing you when you'd get in from like a night shift and you just done like a 12-hour shift and you're like, I'm gonna quickly hit up some pasta because I'll go to sleep and be like in like 6 fucking hours. So,
Yeah.
and then you're not getting paid for any of that, so how hard you work in the build up to it is ridiculous. And then to go straight into COVID, like, I just think the whole carers and stuff, if it could be seen as like patronizing anyway, but like it was really important, because I don't think enough people appreciated how hard people like yourself have been working. And I hope that after the pandemic or COVID has gone away, that's not forgotten.
Definitely, yeah. No, and I did that's what I loved about the Clap for Carers stuff, because it made me feel like it's just nice inside it, and it made you feel like people cared and were appreciative, which is the main thing, really. They recognised that we were working extra hard, kind of thing.
I mean, I think it's well intentioned, isn't it? There was a lot of criticism over it, and I mean, you know, I was one of the people, as I'm sure you were, Khan, as well, that did clap, and I think that the general public were doing it in the sense of, we just want to show the appreciation, but let's hope that the actual kind of appreciation comes through in terms of, you know, what you need work wise and pay wise, and you know, I really hope that actually fruitions into something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too, definitely.
Luke, have you got anything else you want to ask, mate?
No, that was I think we've covered absolutely everything. I mean, obviously there's probably hours and hours of stuff that we could talk about, but I don't think anybody wants to listen to me for the next 3 hours. That's probably not a very great way to spend your day.
Or me saying stuff and like.
No, Chynna, you smashed it, because obviously, like, you haven't done anything like this before.
No.
And not that we're like well versed in it. We kind of just started doing this as a laugh.
Well, you've got 9 ahead of me, so
yeah, exactly.
You're pros in my eyes.
But no, it's been really nice having you on, and like good to finally obviously diversify the podcast a bit with a female presence. Which
nice. I'm impressed with that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's about time, really. Me and Luke were saying the other day, we were like, yeah, we probably should, because so far we've had all white men, and obviously
the thing is, it's just kind of ended up playing out that way. Just because, I don't know. Anyway, it's one of them. Not that it really matters too much, because, you know, we'll talk to anybody, and we will be talking to anybody that, you know, we want to hear from.
Talk to anybody about anything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think
most importantly, what a way to kind of finish off the 10th episode in the first series of Featuring Regular People. So thank you so much for ending this series on a very much high. I actually would think. Because it has been a very much high, and it's great to get the insight information from, you know, someone that's actually doing the things every day.
Definitely. No, thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
But yeah, no, it's been a pleasure, and hopefully things die down a bit and you can have a bit more of a normal lifestyle after this, Chynna.
I hope so. Hope we all can. It'll just be nice to get a bit more normal, really.
Yeah, definitely.
You need to go on fucking holiday.
I do.
There should be a government-sponsored holiday for every single nurse. Obviously, not at the same time. Because,
nobody get ill for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All the way.
Definitely.
No, there's no emergencies this week. But my foot's fallen off.
Yeah.
Wait till Monday.
Sounds like it might be
Fine.
But no, thank you for obviously for doing what you do. I know that that's not necessary, but it's an incredibly admirable and resilient thing that you're doing. So yeah, hugely appreciate your time for coming on as well.
Yeah, and thank you
very much.
everyone. Thank you to everyone that's watched as well. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and also the previous 9. We're going to be having a couple of weeks off just to plan some new guests, and then we'll be coming back at you in a couple of weeks with more episodes and more good content. So like, subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Cool. Cheers, guys.